Hello, and welcome to the Vaults Remastered, a story that I am telling about how to take a 5th edition D&D homebrewed game world and remastering it, retooling it, repurposing it using Pathfinder's 2nd edition remastered rules. Today's episode is going to be the third in a little mini series I'm working on for ancestry conversions. If you don't know what an ancestry is, in Pathfinder terms, that is a race. It is like the D&D elf and the gnome and the dwarf, but in Pathfinder they're known as ancestries. And I have launched this effort to redo a Nibblin, one of the deep gnomes. I am calling it a Gnishiho, and in the last couple episodes I looked at how that process works. I went over how to develop the ancestry, the lore itself, and today I'm going to get into heritages, which in D&D terms that would be your subraces. So you might have, let's say, a dwarf, and then you'd have a mountain dwarf, a hill dwarf, a gray dwarf, right? Same idea here, except they're called heritages. And the Gnishiho that I created with our last video session, if you haven't seen that one, go back and check it out. It's session 1B. I created this lore behind this Nibblin adaptation, and today I'm going to get into how do you really flesh out that lore into heritages. This is my favorite part of ancestry creation. I'm not gonna lie. So this is gonna be pretty cool, pretty exciting. I'm ready to go. Hopefully, so are you. Let's dig into it. So rehash, right? What have I been doing? A couple episodes ago, a couple sessions ago, I set out this objective where I was taking the old fuddy-duddy D&D 5th edition gnome, Nibblin, deep gnome that is, and turning it into a Pathfinder Nibblin. However, Pathfinder doesn't have Nibblin as an option that you can currently choose, so that of course creates a problem. I can't just flip a switch and go, "Hey, I'm going to use this Pathfinder thing." There is none. So I went ahead and set forth some design goals. I said I want to make a Pathfinder 2nd edition compatible ancestry for this gnome, this deep gnome, this Nibblin, or as I am calling it, Gnishiho. And I want to create this really fun, cool, interesting, engaging ancestry with all the lore behind it. And then also generate 6 distinct heritages for this Gnishiho, all tailored towards my homebrew world known as the Vaults of. And I'm even taking a new term that came out in my last back and forth with Chatty Cathy, my AI muse, Cathy, ChatGPT, when she proposed the term under earth. Something about that just like sounded cool. So I am officially calling my game world the Vaults of the Under Earth. That's my setting. It's a Darklands analog. So anyway, I need species, I need races, I need ancestries that live down here, and I need cool, distinct, interesting heritages. So that was my goal. But I still wanted to pay homage to my D&D Nibblin, right? I couldn't just totally scrap that. So the idea that it's in an earthy home, it's got a stone element connection, that was very important for my remaster. I also wanted to acknowledge that Pathfinder 2nd Edition gnomes, they are of a Fey origin. They come from a place known as the First World, which would kind of be like a Feywild analog in D&D terms. So I had these two sort of disparate concepts that I had as the origin that I had to choose from, and I tried to thread the needle here and make a hybrid version of this. I also had the goal to create this unique lore that is going to distinguish my vault specific Svirfnimlin, which is this Gnishiho, from anything that maybe Paizo comes out with later Darklands specific. So if Paizo were to come out with a Darklands supplement that has its own Svirfniblin or whatever they're going to end up calling it, now that they're flushing the OGL stuff, I want to be distinct from that, right? So I also wanted to make whatever ancestry I came up with specific to my home game, my vaults, right? That's the other important thing. And this is the beauty of a home brew, by the way, is you can tailor whatever you want to come up with for your specific setting, your characters, your story, your plot. I also want to make sure that this ancestry, this Gnishiho, has distinctive flavors of heritages, stuff that is unrelated to the geography, because if you look at Pathfinder's official ancestries along with their heritages, most of them are related to the geography. Most of them are related to the ecology. So you'd have like Arctic elves, and you'd have wood elves, and you'd have cave elves, right? Well, in the vaults, you're in a subterranean, pretty stable, static environment. Yes, there are, underground lakes and there's underground fungal forests and that sort of thing, but you're still underground. You're still in a cave. So it's hard to just say cave gnome or whatever, right? So you have to come up with some unique, interesting flavors for these heritages. So rather than tying them into the geography or the ecology, I wanted to tie them into cultural and historical elements. And there were four areas that, for me, thematically fit my Gnishiho. They are practitioners of crystal, light magic. That's sort of a tie-in to illusionists from, if you follow, gnomes and deep gnomes back through the annals of D&D and Pathfinder, I think. Both game worlds would have gnomes and illusion magic kind of being hand in hand. Uh, my Gnishiho are also lovers of just gemstones, which is traditionally true of most deep gnomes as far as I know. I also wanted to tie them into the earth where they have the ability to call to the earth for power. This again is a traditional concept for deep gnomes who are locked into a relationship with earth elementals for various reasons. So I wanted to have that as part of my heritages. And then the last thing is I wanted to make my heritages for my Nibblin tie into the my concept that they're really good engineers, they're really good tinkerers, clockwork, steampunky maybe. These guys are like the inventors in my game world. And I think again that is very traditional, some of the thoughts there that you'll find with gnomes and deep gnomes throughout the history of that being a race, that being a species. And then lastly, one of my goals was I wanted to have a wide range of feats for the ancestry that I'm creating, as well as these distinct heritages I'm going to create. More feats than probably you'll find in like the core rulebooks or even in the remastered rulebooks. I'm having dozens of feats total, just to give my players a lot of unique options. And again, I can do this because it's a homebrew. I can create specific feats that really tie into my game world. They might not work outside of my Vaults game world, but they work very well within the confines of the space that I'm creating. So those are my goals for my remaster. Session 1, as I mentioned a couple videos ago, I took a deep dive analysis of Nibblin from 5th edition. And what you see here are the stats, the mechanics I was using for my Nibblin that my players were originally playing in my game, which ended back in September. A lot of this is, stock stuff from 5th edition, from the Elemental Evil Player's Handbook or whatever it was that came out that first show the Nibblin. The only thing I'd done differently here was at the very bottom, the Nibblin magic. I had taken that optional feat from, D&D's list there, and I just made it part of the stock abilities for my dark, not my Darklands, my Underdark variant, my Vaults world here for my Nibblin. So I looked at that, and I could see that this was not going to work. It's just a straight one-to-one conversion over to Pathfinder. It's just Pathfinder stuff is way more complex as far as options and variations, and this would not work directly as is. I could certainly use this as a starting point, as a reflection of what I'm trying to do, but I couldn't just call it Pathfinder. Then in the second session, which was the video I just posted yesterday, I got into the Pathfinder side of things. So starting with that version of the Nibblin I was just showing you, combining with my lore that I have for my game world, using the lore from various sources from D&D, from Pathfinder, etc. I used Chat GPT, Kathy, to help me answer a set of questions that would create a Pathfinder 2nd edition compatible ancestry. And what I have here is just the summary bullet points of what was generated during that activity. So for lore, for these Gnishiho, we came up with that they are Fey descended, but they've evolved in the depths. They have an earthy influence. And that's the second point here. Culturally evolved. They have their Fey roots, light, laughter, happy go lucky, but that is then being mingled in, intermingling, hybridizing with gemstones and the resilience of stone. So those two kind of worlds fusing here in the Underdark. They are the Darklands, the vaults. They're bringing light to this dark place. They, under threat of perpetual light, they have turned to innovation. They have turned to light crafting, radiant power, gemstone magic, tinkering. They are masters of light and stone. They manipulate mineral radiance. They have formed alliances with earth elementals to protect themselves. A whole bunch of lore that I came up with. And then I got into their mannerisms, their perceptions. These Gnishiho, they embody the spirit of ingenuity and resilience. They find wonder, not they find opportunity. They find wonder in the darkness. They don't see it as oppressive. They see it as almost like a blank canvas that they can illuminate and bring joy and light to. They're respected and admired as craftsmen, as navigators through the darkness, inventors. People want to hang out with them because they love company. They like to celebrate life. They're defying the darkness with their behaviors. Physically, they're shorter, somewhere around 3.5 feet, maybe 4 feet tops. Earthy tones, grays, tans, browns, highlighted with gems, highlighted with precious metals. They like to be colorful still, throwback to their Fey ancestry, and they are able to find color in gemstones and precious metals. So they will adorn themselves with these things. Especially the females, they will have all kinds of colors in their hair, beads and jewels. The males, who are typically hairless, they will tattoo color onto their skin. A lot of their tattoos might be draconic in origin, as they're able to tap into crystal dragon, gem dragon type of powers, which is a whole nother thing we'll get into hopefully a little bit when we talk about the feats. Then, society speaking, they are very honorable. They believe in what's known as the Stoneward Code. I was trying to get a sort of samurai bushido kind of philosophy here. You know, not just warriors, but artisans. And this code, the Stoneward Code, doesn't just apply to their martial abilities, but it applies to everything: their craftsmanship, their inventions, you name it. This is like the backbone of their society. Their cities are centers of innovation, and they're still blended with those traditional crafts of, mining and sculpting and smithing. Overall, their society is led by families of esteemed excellence that have proven themselves as artisans as well as warriors. So they're kind of, I don't want to say lords, but they're just very well-to-do clans or families, and most of the society looks at them as, beacons, as representatives of, great honor and precision. Education occurs at lodes, they would be called universities, if you will, like a lodestone is where the idea here is. And as the more I thought about this, the more I kind of like it as tying into the new wizard schools that have come out in the remaster, where you're not, uh, specifically studying one of the 8 traditional schools. You now have schools that are much more creative, much more based around the culture, around a purpose. So I kind of like this idea with wizards being able to study at certain loads. Maybe they're learning magnetic magic or stone magic or gem magic. But beyond that, students learning teaching is done at these centers of learning, and they're really focused on precision, efficiency, innovation. I guess engineering schools might be a good way to sort of think about these. Then we got into the naming system, the naming traditions for the people. I expanded upon this a little bit off camera, but simple version here is that people's names reflect their achievements and their contributions to civilization. They have potentially 4 different names. You have your first name, which I try to give like an Eastern Asian sort of flair to the names. And then there's like your middle name, which would be Gemroot is your last name. It's like your surname. Then that's kind of tied into your family, into your clan, into your honor. Then you've got your given name, which would be your middle name, and this is more your virtue, your aspiration. What are you trying to become? And then you have an honorific. You might have a title, depending on what your job was or what your standing was in society itself. And then lastly, I got into the belief system, the religion, the edicts, and the anathemas, and came up with that craftsmanship was equivalent to spirituality for these Gnishiho. And their workshops were like altars, they were like their temples, they were like their churches. So you could definitely see where they might have a religious ceremony at the forge or at the workshop itself, at the tinkering table, at the gem cutter's wheel. They also believe in the collective and the well-being of the community. Kind of being a lone wolf or outsider isn't I guess normal for Gnishiho. They are much more family, community, together. They probably had to evolve this way because they are threatened by so many other things that are dark loving and shadow living. Then they got into their deities, lots of different possible primordials that they would worship, as well as some of the forbidden gods of the surface world. And these would align with all different facets of their life: their ingenuity, engineering side, their warrior, defending the burrow from any threats, to that just the artistic, to the gems, to the light, all these different aspects of their life. They have some sort of deity that they could worship in that particular area. And then their edicts and anathemas, they all focused on crafting, as you can imagine, innovation, community, good and bad, depending on which side of the coin you were on. And then we got to where I left off and where I'm going to pick up today. The Gnishiho, we developed a stat block, mechanics for a PC. Adventurers that were Gnishiho, they would be driven by this desire to bring light to the darkness. They would be wanting to show off, display their craftsmanship. Some of them are going out there to protect their kin. Others are trying to uncover more secrets, more magic, more of an innovation engineering style. A lot of them are also getting into adventuring because it's a legacy of craftsmanship, of their guardianship. So they feel the need to bring light and ingenuity from their own culture out to others. Adventures is a great way to kind of get this information or these pieces, these gadgets perhaps they've created out to the wider world, or to bring light to dark corners where adventurers would go. And then I designed the stat block here where they're a common species, a common ancestry in my game world. Their base hit points are 8. Their size is small. Their speed's 25. They have ability boosts in dexterity and intelligence, which goes with their ability to finely manipulate gems and trinkets and little gadgets, as well as their intelligence, because they are extremely smart to be able to understand gem magic, geomancy, understand the engineering, the mathematics involved in their clockwork and everything else that they're doing. Their flaw is strength. They are not physically powerful compared to many other ancestries that are down in the vaults. This would be a throwback to their Fey origins. They're also pretty small, pretty short of stature, light of weight. Languages under Common Gnome and the Gemlight signaling that I talked about, this ability to kind of use like a Morse code. Their traits, I locked into this. They are gnome and humanoid. They don't have additional traits like elemental traits or fey. And then their abilities, mentioned this last video, that almost all of my ancestries in the Vaults game are going to have at least low light vision, if not straight up dark vision. So that is not really a special ability that they have, because everybody down here is going to have something like that. And then that leaves us the last two: Crystal Focus, which is they're able to pretty much cast a light spell, and an Artisan of the Depths gives them I think it's a +2 crafting bonus that they would pick when they first create their character. They get to choose a particular field of crafting, of artisanry, that they would be able to apply that bonus to. So that is where we left off. And then I got to the next thing, which is, hey, what about the heritages? I have an ancestry, I've got all this lore. What are the specific subraces or flavors of Gnishiho you could play? And the results are in after my work with Kathy here. Came up with 6 options that represent the different facets of my Gnishiho's cultural connections to gems, light, earth, and craftsmanship that I mentioned at the outset. They are, drum roll please. We've got the Bleachling. I kind of spoiled this when I was talking about the ancestry. Bleaching is a disease, an affliction, but the Bleachlings have survived. Earthcaller. These would be the ones that are summoning elemental types. Geomancy. Gadgeteers. We're talking your tinkerers, your inventors. Gemblades. These are your warriors. They're using weapons of, radiant crystal energy. Refractionists. This is an attribute to the illusionists to except that these Gnishiho are able to use gems and reflective surfaces to bend and warp light to create these illusions. And then last but not least, rune carvers, uh, magician types that are able to use ancient writings of giants in order to create magical items of power that will channel and focus the energy that flows through the earth. And then each heritage, as I went ahead and designed them, I wanted to focus on these 4 areas. I needed a thematic title, which you see here. I think I've got that with these 6. Each of the titles is telling you and giving you a visual, hopefully, about what that Gnishiho, what its background is. It doesn't mean that you need to be an illusionist if you're from the Refractionist. It just means that you have that training, that culture, that blood in you. A cool pick. Why not a beautiful, gorgeous picture, right? And but guys, look no further. On the left is the official Nibblin of Dungeons and Dragons. On the right is the official Nibblin of Pathfinder. Really? Is that making you want to play one of these? No. Okay, I've been trying really hard to get Sal Dolly, that is, the AI art to generate some really cool looking Nibblin with grayish skin and tan skin and brown skins and fey looks to them and gems and gears and stuff on their body. They're wearing them, tattoos, etc. Things that are going to make you go, ooh, that thing looks cool. I want to play one. So that is what I've been doing. So if you hopefully you're liking a lot of these pictures that I've been showing, these would all have been generated from the AIs I've been mentioning. Ooh, nope, spoilers yet. Tease. I teased you. And then description, right? Some cool, flavorful description about this heritage that again makes you a player want to play them. I want you not sure what you want to play because there's so many cool options, right? Whether it's an ancestry or a heritage of an ancestry. And then last but not least, some sort of heritage power, some sort of ability that's appropriate for a first level character, brand spanking new. But I really want all of these heritage powers to be buildable, to be foundational. In other words, as you level up and you choose later feats, I'm going to build a suite of heritage feats that use this level 1 initial character creation power as the building block upon which the rest of these feats grow. I mentioned this in my last video. So that is where today's topic really gets into. And I've been babbling long enough, so let's get into it. The Bleachling. I almost spoiled this a while ago, but here he is. Seen by other Gnishiho as having escaped the grave, Bleachlings have somehow survived the ravages of the bleaching, a lethal affliction that drains a Gnishiho of all color and love of life. Your skin, hair, and eyes are nearly colorless, and your demeanor ranges from eerily calm to an emotional void. However, you have embraced the loss of vibrance, finding comfort in your monochromatic existence among the pitch of the deep vaults. There you walk the paths less traveled, your presence barely a whisper. Many of your kind become vainward sentinels, solitary explorers skilled at navigating the treacherous depths, mapping uncharted caverns and serving as scouts for your enclave. So the bleaching, if you don't know, in Pathfinder, gnomes, the surface ones that are very colorful, very flamboyant, they can suffer from this deadly disease known as bleaching that just drains them pale and kills them typically. What if you survived? And it would be more common in the Darklands because perhaps there's some relationship between light exposure and the bleaching. So bleachlings, it just when I saw and read about bleaching in I forgot where I originally saw it. I think it was on the Pathfinder wiki or something like that. I was like, I gotta have one. I gotta make this. I always one of my heritages I always kind of want to have sort of weirdo outcast type of thing, just something that most maybe some people are like, ooh, I don't want to play that, or might think that way. But rather than everything being all colorful, shiny, and beautiful, why not have some ugliness? Why not have some fear? Some creepy stuff. Some people are into that. So here you go. You wanted to play a Gnishiho, but they're too cute and they're too shiny and colorful. Bleachling, here it is. What's the ability? You get Duskbringer. And I thought this was pretty cool, so hopefully you guys believe it is too, or at least, don't think it sucks. It's a one action ability. Once per day, you can absorb ambient light within a 20-foot emanation, lowering the light level in the area by one stage. So bright light would turn to dim, or to darkness, I think. Yeah, sorry. Bright light to, is it low light in Pathfinder? Dim light? Whatever. Dim light to darkness. So you're dropping light levels by one. This could be really deadly in this Darklands scenario where yeah everybody might have low light vision, but if you can drop it to darkness, you've just blinded everybody, right? So that's going to be kind of a fun, possible, cool ability. Although it might not be cool enough because so many people have low light vision, and because a lot of the ancestries also have dark vision straight out of the box. So this might need to be buffed a little bit. This might need some sort of innate -1 penalty or something like that given to enemies. Perhaps it needs to snuff non-magical fires like candles, torches, lanterns. I could see something like that being added on there. Maybe it does affect magical light. Maybe I need to retract this. But right now I have it as this ability does not affect magical light sources. So anyway, you're able to lower the light levels by 1. And then what I want to do is make the heritage feats later tie into this. So that's why I kind of made this a little bit, I don't want to say on the weak side, but as I have heritage feats later, you can kind of see how you could stack on this, where you could snuff out fires, you could affect magical darkness, you could debilitate, perhaps trigger fear condition in your enemies. And a 20-foot emanation is pretty big. It's 20 feet around you. That's huge. So you're able just to drop the light down. All right, then my second heritage is the Earthcaller. Earthcallers are imbued with the eerie, a primal force that resonates within the deep earth. This connection gives you a unique ability to call upon the earth, manifesting talents that range from geomancy to the summoning of earth elementals. Your bloodline is steeped in the ancient magic of the earth, making you a natural conduit for telluric currents. There's some typos here I gotta fix. You're able to speak Petran, the language of the earth and its native denizens. So you gain an extra language. And then you also gain the trained proficiency rank in Arcana and Lore Geology. So you get 2 skill proficiencies here, training. If you would automatically become trained in one of those skills from your background, your class, or what have you, you instead become trained in a skill of your choice. So you get a language and 2 training proficiencies and some skills because you're just very knowledgeable of the earth and its magic. Now, the Ur, by the way, if you haven't seen my earlier videos about Kavarka, about his realm of Prismar, and the adjacent realm of light there, the Ur is the energy, like the magnetic field energy that passes through the earth and it travels through all the crystals in the rock, and it's channeling down and trapped, they believe, in the gemstones. That's what gives the gems their glitter, their shine. And so the Gnishiho would see this as, this primordial energy, this primal energy, and they're able to channel it, these earth callers are, and use it to speak to the earth itself. Okay, our third heritage is the Gadgeteer, my Tinkerer. They're the pinnacle of Gnishiho innovation. From a young age, you have shown an exceptional ability to comprehend and create complex devices. Your creations are both practical and awe inspiring, often serving multiple purposes. You are often seen with custom made tools and gadgets, and you have a reputation as a problem solver and innovator. So, this is your Tinkerroot. So, your lineage is your family has spent generations perhaps with clockwork and constructs and gadgets and gizmos. And so you would have grown up around these types of creatures and toys for you your whole entire life. So it has had a powerful impact upon you and your family. You gain the ingenious device power. Provided you have the rudimentary materials, you can spend 10 minutes to craft a tiny mechanical device designed to assist with a specific skill check. When you use this device in relation to the skill it's designed for, you gain a +2 item bonus to that skill check. For example, you might create a clockwork magnifying glass for a perception check to spot small details, a miniaturized grappling hook for an athletics check to climb, or a precision scale for a crafting check to appraise a gem. So you can kind of make whatever you want as long as you have some basic rudimentary materials, up to the GM what exactly that would be, and you've got 10 minutes of time to sit here and make this little craft. You can only use this ability once a day, and each device is tailored for a single use. So once you use it, you'll wind it up, whatever, it does its thing, and then it's done. Once it's been used to assist with a skill check, it becomes inert and cannot be used again. The device is not suitable for combat or complex tasks beyond the scope of the assisted skill check. So even though it's wide open what you can make, it's also very restricted by the mechanics. So it allows the player to kind of come up with a cool idea and for the GM to say, "Yeah, sure." And then the mechanics restrict it so that it's going to give you a +2 on that roll for whatever that check is that you made. So I really like this idea. I was really fighting this one at first because the initial idea was it was some sort of almost like a familiar, and it was getting too complicated with all the rules and mechanics you'd have to have around it. And then I just said, well, screw it. What if it's just like a one and done, and you could do whatever you want with it, and once it's done, it's over. Easy, right? And so, yeah, this was the concept that we came up with. The next one, the Gemblade. I've mentioned these guys a couple of times. You've seen them a couple of times in some of the artwork. Descended from a lineage of esteemed warrior artisans, Gemblade Gnishiho are distinguished by their glowing warp fire tattoos, a symbol of both their martial heritage and their connection to the Earth's magic. Often serving as burrow wardens, these elite soldiers excel in subterranean tactics, blending combat prowess with protective magic to defend their communities and mines. Their training emphasizes the use of terrain for tactical advantage, and they are respected for their vigilance and adaptability in the face of danger. So these guys are your like samurai type warriors of the community. And they're able to they're able to infuse their flesh with warpstone. Now, warpstone is essentially uranium, right? It's a radioactive ore that is in the bowels of the earth. Its radiation, its energy is known as warp fire. In Pathfinder, I think they call it blight burn, or at least blight burn would be radiation sickness. Anyway, warp fire tattoos, they're able to channel this energy, this the Earth's raw radioactive power into their bodies, into their weaponry, and do some damage. You gain the luminous strike power. So an action. Once a day, you can cause the warp fire ink in your tattoos to radiate light, increasing the illumination level in a 10-foot radius around you by one stage, and granting you a +1 circumstance bonus to attack rolls until the end of your turn. This ability does not only serve as a visual beacon, but also tactically disorients your opponents, giving you an edge in combat. So you glow a little bit more brightly, bumping up the light level by one around you. So that could take you from dim to bright light, which could blind creatures that are susceptible to bright light. And then you get this +1 attack roll bonus, which is this concept of you're sort of distracting the enemies. Also, you're glowing and you're coming in swinging. I kind of see this be sort of cool to pair this with the champion and having the smiting. I think you get smiting in Pathfinder, don't you? That could be a fun little wham bam. Anyway, boom. This I think I have to make sure that people understand this is an attack action as well. So once you actually no, this would not be an attack action. This is just a self buff. So it does not it does not cause the multiple attack penalty to start triggering. So you could do this first, and then hit with your, smite or whatever, big old hit you want to do next. All right, next we got the Refractionist. This is the illusionist, pretty much. So born from a lineage celebrated for mastery over light, Refractionist Gnishiho possess a unique ability to manipulate light into intricate illusions. Combining a deep understanding of optics with the properties of crystals, you are invaluable for navigation and exploration in the vault's dim realms. Your skills extend beyond mere tactical uses like camouflage. You are adept at crafting dazzling visual displays that captivate and communicate. Whether for strategic misdirection or artistic expression, you deftly turn light into a tool for both concealment and creation. You gain the Veil of Light power. This is an action. Once a day, you can manipulate light within a 15-foot radius to create a zone of illusionary cover to distract or mislead onlookers. While it doesn't create specific images, the shifting play of light and shadow can be used to obscure exact positions, making it harder for enemies to pinpoint your location. For 1 minute, you and your allies gain a +1 circumstance bonus to stealth checks within the area. So you're able to make, some light and shadow play that it obscures exactly what's over there. And it should be, I just want to clarify the wording on here because you manipulate the light within a 15-foot radius of yourself, I guess, is what this should be. To make sure that it's not like 15 feet away. So pretty broad area. So you and your team kind of hunker down and maybe stealth. And I probably want to specify that it doesn't move. So it's more of a stationary thing. So stationary, and it's 15 feet off you. But I can kind of start seeing later heritage feats can buff this so that maybe it is immovable. Like Veil that goes with you. Maybe it's something that does some damage. Maybe it's something that, creates difficult terrain if your enemy tries to go through there because it becomes like living light and living shadows. That could be fun. So there's ways I can immediately start to think it would be fun to build on this. All right, and then the last one is the Rune Carver. Descendants of a lineage steeped in ancient geomancy, Rune Carver Gnishiho are not only master artisans, but also inheritors of a mystical legacy linked to giants. Legend holds that these giants, renowned for their runic language and profound bond with the earth, once walked the same deep realms as the Gnishiho. Whether through direct teachings from these enigmatic beings or unearthing their long lost lore, your kin mastered the art of etching powerful runes into the very bones of the earth. You are a guardian of these sacred traditions, adept in blending your magic with craftsmanship. Your voice harmonizes with the deep resonances of stone, and your hands awaken the latent magic within gemstones and minerals, turning simple carvings into potent talismans. Your connection to the ancient wisdom of the giants allows you to channel their runic power through Runestone Legacy. Once per day, you can cast the Runic Weapon spell as a first level primal innate spell without expending a spell slot. This would have been Magic Weapon before the remaster, so Runic Weapon is the new Magic Weapon. This ability manifests your deep understanding of the runic magic, enabling you to charge a crafted item with a burst of magical energy, a skill passed down through generations since the time of the giants. And as I was just reading this, I was thinking, in my game world, the vaults, there are still giants. Well, there's two types, I think, three types, but the Fomorian giants are really jumping out at me because if I remember their lore, they came from the Feydark or the Feywild, at least in D&D terms. I don't know what it is in Pathfinder, but in my game world, that is a thing. There are these Fomorians. They are in a place. Don't want to spoil it in case any of my players are watching, but they're there and their influence has been felt, not directly in the game. But anyway, I'm just thinking, what if this wasn't some like nicey nice, hey, here's how you use runes? What if it was the Fomorians and the ancient Gnishiho stole it from these Fomorians, stole this magic as they, needed it for survival? That could be fun. That could be a cool little spin on this. So maybe the rune carvers were kind of like, naughty, right? They stole something, and maybe creates a vendetta that some of the giants would hunt these Gnishiho down if they can find them because they want their rune magic back. That could be cool. It'd be an interesting little idea, right? All right. So as you see, There is a little bit more work to do. I gotta refine 3 or 4 of those a bit, but I think overall they're pretty cool. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? I've got some cool ideas, right? The Bleachlings are pretty sweet. This ability to make the area darker, I kind of think that needs to be buffed a little bit with a little extra something there. Maybe some penalty to enemies or something. Maybe some fear mechanic. Then you've got the Earthcallers. These guys are going to ultimately be able to summon Earth elementals. So, that's where they're going. I like that idea. You've got the Gadgeteers. I think ultimately these guys can, with a feat, build a familiar, a little wind up clockwork familiar. I didn't want to get into that at first level though, because that's a whole nother, thing. But I think that could be fun for these Gadgeteers. Then you've got the Gemblades. These guys would be like your martial art monk warrior types, swordsmen. I'm really thinking sword mages from fourth edition D&D here. I don't know if there's something like that. Maybe a magus for Pathfinder. But anyway, I can see that luminous strike getting more powerful. The Refractionists, these illusionists, already mentioned, kind of beefing up their Veil of Light. I like this idea. Then you've got your Rune Carvers. These guys can be able to create little buffs, little powered gems. Maybe they can make them into grenades and chuck them and blow up stuff. That could be funny. All right. So anyway, those are the heritages that I came up with the assistance of my muse, Kathy, and the art that you saw was generated by Dolly, by Sal. That took the longest part of this whole process, by the way. All right, next session. Hey, what's going on after this? Well, there's one last thing I need to do for this ancestry, and it's probably the biggest thing. Well, it is the biggest thing, and that is the ancestry feats. As you can see here, I'm going to end up creating 30-ish, 3 dozen feats total, probably more, because the heritage feats are going to be, 6 of those times 5, so like 30 right there. So there's going to be, dang, there's going to be about 60 feats I'm going to end up creating. Now that I'm counting, I'm going, boy, I'm stupid. But anyway, that's the idea, right? A whole bunch of first level, fifth level, ninth, etc. I might, part of this options could be just the heritage feats, so this might be a little bit, on the higher side, so maybe the lower numbers might be more logical. Because if I have 6 heritage feats here, then I might only need 6 or 8 non-heritage feats to kind of flesh this out to get me close to that dozen number. And the same kind of idea here, I might not need, all of these options. I can use some of these heritage feats as those options. Anyway, that's the plan for next session. I'm going to use Kathy, and I'm going to feed her the information we have about these Gnishiho, about specifically the heritages. So, for instance, one of the things I'll do is I will remind her what have I done for each heritage, and then say I need 5 more feats that heritage can use that go through this level progression. Can you help me generate those? And I would like to tie them into the base ability, like the Runestone Legacy. And she'll come up with some cool ideas. I'll also give her a reference point. I will likely feed her the feats, let's say, from gnomes, and say, here are the gnome feats that currently exist. I need you to make feats that aren't those, but use those as your blueprint. And I need it to tie into my heritage. I'll also use the feats from gnomes as a starting point to generate all these options as well. Because if I can go to the player core and reflavor 6 or 7, let's say first level gnome feats to be deep gnome feats, to be Gnishiho feats, well, then I only need to come up with brand new 4 or 5 feats. So it saves me some time. So this is a fairly monumental task, but it shouldn't be crazy amount because you do have so much resources to pull from. The gnome feats as an example, the base heritage abilities that I have already. And then Chatty, Kathy, she's really good at doing this. I've worked with her before. She's really good at evaluating the abilities and the powers, especially if you give her a reference point. She can come up with some not too crazy OP type of ancestry feats. So anyway, that is the last stage. At that point, I will have what I would consider a complete ancestry. I'll have all the lore, I'll have all the heritages and I'll have all these feats, and then I can hand it over to my players and say, have fun. All right, that's the goal. All right, hopefully you had fun watching me go through this process, learning about the heritages and seeing how I went about my thought process, how I created these things, how I generated the artwork for them, and what my next strategy plan is. And you see the big picture as it's growing before your eyes. All right, so if you're interested in checking out the ancestry feats, the next video, go ahead and of course like the video, click the notification bell. Comment below if you think some of the stuff was crazy, stupid, cool, you like some of the pictures, whatever. Have fun with it. All right, I will see you in the next video. Take care of yourself and have a good night.